Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to learn how to animate your main character in your game. We are going to use the animation player and the animation tree nodes. The animation tree actually is a very great node that will simplify everything. It will make the code more shorter. Now I'm going to start creating the main scene. It's going to be a 2D scene. Let's rename it to main scene. Save it. And as you can see, I have this sprite sheet under the resources folder. I'm going to leave a link in the description to download it. Now let's go ahead and create the player node. It's going to be kinematic body 2D. Let's rename it to player and add sprite and collision shape 2D. Now for the sprite, click and drag this sprite sheet to the texture under the inspector and click on region, enable it, and down here click on texture region and click on grid snap. Now for the step, we need to change it to 32 by 32 pixels, and we need to select this sprite here. Now we need to save it, and for the collision shape, I'm gonna select new capsular shape. Let's zoom in and adjust it like this. And we need to go back to the main scene and create an instance of this player. Like this. Now, when we run the game, we need to select the main scene. And here we have a player, but nothing is happening. There's no movement, there's no animation. And now we're going to start by making the player move. And for this, we need to go back to the player scene and attach a script for it. And here I'm going to start creating 4 variables. The first one is going to be the velocity. So var velocity equal to vector2 initialized to 0. And a max speed with a value of 200. An acceleration with a value of 500, and a friction with a value of 600. Now we need to create a new function called move that will have delta as a parameter, and inside this function I'm going to start by creating a variable called input vector, which is a vector2 initialized to 0. Now for the x value of the input vector, it's going to have input dot get axis UI left and UI right. And this means that the x value of the input vector is going to have 1 when we press the right arrow button, and it's going to have -1 when we press the left arrow button, and it's going to have a value of 0 when we press the left and the right buttons at the same time. And we need to do the same thing for the y value. So input vector.y equal to input dot get axis UI up and UI down. Now we need to normalize this vector. So input vector equal to input vector dot normalized. Now I'm gonna set a condition. So if the value of the input vector is not equal to 0, we need to make the player move. So if input vector is not 0, then we need to change the velocity. So velocity equal to velocity dot move toward input vector times max speed, the acceleration times delta. Else the velocity is going to equal to velocity move toward vector 2 dot 0 friction times delta. And finally you need to call the move on slide function. So velocity equal to move on slide velocity. Now we need to call this move function inside the physics process function. So func physics process, and here move with delta. Now as you can see, the play is moving smoothly in all directions, but there's no animation yet. And this is what we are going to do in the next step. And for this, let's start by adding the animation player node to the player scene. So here, select animation player. And the animation player tool can make you key any property that you want. Like when we select the sprite node, we can key the offset, the frames, the position, and even the visibility. So you can key anything you want. And when you select the animation player node, it will open the tab here. And from this tab, you can create a new animation by clicking on animation, new. And let's start by creating the run right animation. And we need to select the sprite node now. So for the text region, you need to select all the frames, like here. And for the H frames, we need to set it to 6, and for the V frames, it's going to be 4, like this. Now going back to the animation tab, you can see that we have now timeline. This is the length of the animation, and we have a snap set it to 0.1 second, and here we can change the length of the animation. For our case, it's going to be 0.8 seconds. Now we can zoom in from here, and now let's start creating the animation. So for the run and write, the first animation is going to be, I think, the number 13. So all we need to do is to press this button here and click on create. Now we need to go to the 0.2 seconds and need to key the 12th frame. Now for 0.4, it's going to be the 14th frame, and finally it's going to be back to the 12th frame, and we need to click on the loop button here, and we can run it. And as you can see, we have animation of the player running to the right. Now let's go ahead and create a new animation for the run left. It's going to be 0.8 seconds, and let's go to the first frame. It's going to be number 16, create, back to 15, create, going back to 17, and again back to 15. Click on loop, and let's see. Now we have the player running to the left. Now let's create run down. Again, 0.8. First frame is going to be, let's see, number 1. Create. Now going back to frame number 0, and number 2, and again number 0. Click on loop, run. This is it. Now finally run up animation. So key frame number 4, back to frame number 3, going to frame number 5, and back to frame number 3 again, loop, and this is it. So like this, we have created 4 animations of running up, down, right, and left. Let's stop this, and now I'm gonna create an animation for the idles. So let's start by the idle down. It's going to be 0.1 seconds, and this is the idle down. Now we need to keyframe it, and this is it. Now let's go ahead and create idle up. Again, 0.1 seconds. I forgot to set the idle down to loop. Now idle up, it's going to be the frame number 3. Create, loop. Now idle right, and hit key, loop, and finally idle left. And this is it. Now we have 8 animations that we are going to use it in the AnimationTree node. But first we need to test those animations inside the game. We have this little button here. It's for autoplaying the animation. So you need to autoplay the run left animation by clicking on it, and let me run the game. Now as you can see, the character is animating, but it continue animating even the player is not moving or moving in the opposite way, and we don't want to do that. So we need to get access to the animation player from the play script. Let me just disable the autoplay for the run left, and going back to the play script, I'm gonna here start by declaring a new variable to get access to the animation player node. So onReady var animation player equal to $ animation player. Now here in the move function, we know that the input vector, it will not be equal to 0 when the player is moving. So here we can play an animation like AnimationPlayer dot play, for example, run left. And if it is not moving, we want to play idle left. Let me run the game. And here, when the player is moving, the run left animation is playing, and when it stops moving, the idle animation is player. But there's no other animations, so it's only animating in one direction. We can do all of this work here, so we can set many conditions for the animations and figure out in what direction the player is moving. But this will take a lot of work, a lot of line of code, and we don't want that. And here come the role of the animation tree node. So now we need to go to the player scene node and add the animation tree node. And as you can see, it opened up this tab here, but it is empty and has nothing in it. And the first thing we need to do is to assign an animation player to the animation tree node by clicking on assign and select animation player. Now we need to select the tree node, and you can see that we have multiple options, but we need to select the new animation node state machine. Now here we have this space, and we have a message that says animation tree is inactive and active to enable playback. Check node warning is activation phase. All I need to do is to click on active here. That's all. Now we need to right click and select add blend space 2D. We need to rename it to idle, and it will contain all the idle animation. Now click on this little icon and it will open up this new window, and from here we need to create some points. So you need to click on this little icon, create points, and we come to the left, click on add animation. It's going to be the idle left. Now to the top, add animation idle down, and to the right, add animation idle right. Now down here, add animation idle up. Now make sure to change the blend to these little dots here, and also make sure to play idle. Now we click on set the blend position, so go to 2D, and now as you can see, when we change the blend position, it rotates the character. Now let's go back to root and add another blend space 2D. Rename it to run. Click on edit, and you are going to do the same thing here. So we need to add some points. This one is the run left. Here, run down, run right and run up. Now again change the blend to dots and you go back to root and play. Need to rename it to run. Need to play. Go to edit, and when we change the blend position, you can see that the character is animating to right, left, up and down depending on the blend position. Now when we click on the animation tree node, you can see that in the parameters we have idle and run. Now here we have the blend position. I'm going to reset it to 0 by default for the idle and for the run, and we need to change it through the code. Now we need to go back to root and create a transition between the idle and the run animations. So clicking on this icon and create a transition from idle to run and from run idle. Make sure to run idle by default. I need to click on select, run idle, and also make sure to click on autoplay animation on start for the idle animations, like this. Now going back to the play script, here we need to use the animation tree that we set up, and we are going to set the import vector to equal to the blend position of the animation tree. So first thing, we need to get access to the animation tree. So on ready var animation tree equal to animation tree, and also we need to get access to the state of the animation tree. So on ready var animation state equal to animation tree dot get, and we need to get access to the parameters slash playback. The next thing we want to do is to set up the blend position, and we will be doing this only when the player is moving. So let me delete this first, and also delete this. Now in here we need to type animation tree dot set. We need to get access to the blend value, so parameters slash idle slash blend position, and the blend position value, it will depend on the import vector value. So here import vector. Now we need to do the same thing for the run animation. So animation tree dot set parameters now run blend position, and again import vector. Now when the player is moving, we need to set the state to run. So animation state dot travel, and we are going to travel to run. And when the player is not moving, animation state is going to travel to idle. Now we need to run the game. Alright, it's only animating to the left, so I must did something wrong. Oh, I missed type in run. It's not capital U. Now let's test it again. Perfect. Now our play is animating perfectly in all directions, but there's one simple problem. You can see that when we move to the top right and when we move to the down right, the play will face top or down. But when we move to the top left and when we move to the down left, the player will face to the sideways. And fixing that actually is very simple. All we need to do is to go back to the animation tree node, and we need to edit idle, and here we need to add 1.1 and also here 1.1, and we need to change this point position. So we need to select to the top and to the down, and like this we are prioritizing the left and the right animations over the down and the up animations. Now we need to do the same thing for the run animations, 1.1 and 1.1, moving the positions of these points. Now when we run the game again, when the play is stop moving, it will always facing the sideways. And like this, we have finished this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed it, and see you all later.